Hello guys! As I'm part of the Channel Mum team, I've been asked to share my thoughts and experiences on controlled crying. For me, I just think whatever works for your family, what's right for your baby and for you in your situation, that's what you should do. I just hate how some parents are made to feel like a bad parent and that they're cruel if they do controlled crying, or parents that don't do controlled crying are made to feel like they're spoiling their child and they're too attached. I don't know, I just think everyone's situation is so different. What works for one person doesn't work for another. It's the same with, bottle feeding versus breastfeeding and baby wearing, co-sleeping. We need to give each other a bit more slack and a bit more credit and just realise that everyone is so different and we can all do our own thing. As long as we're not harming our children, as long as we're happy, then it shouldn't be a problem. So in terms of my experiences with controlled crying, we kind of took aspects of it and implemented them into our routine with Jasper. I feel like I talk about Jasper's sleep quite a lot because it was such a big part of his first year, his first 2 years even. Sleep has never been something that we've nailed straight away. Even now we still have our off days. Jasper didn't sleep through the night until he was 13 months and 6 days. And even then, it was only for a couple of weeks, and then he had a tooth come through, or he got tonsillitis, or we moved house, or we went on holiday. There was always something that kind of threw him off the routine that we'd spent so long getting him into. And I would say it's probably been the last couple of months that he's actually slept well. So honestly, I can put my hands up and say that I have been one of those mothers that would be desperate to try anything. I mean, sleep deprivation is a form of torture in some countries, so it's awful. I don't think anything prepares you. So many people say, oh, be prepared for the sleepless nights, make sure you sleep when the baby's sleeping. It's easier said than done. When you have been going through sleep deprivation for weeks and months, I got to the point where I was like, my son is 1 and he's still not sleeping, and it's almost like no sleep was just normal for me. And it didn't make it okay, health-wise. I was getting stressed and my skin was bad and I was tired and I didn't have energy and I was really anxious about going out. I didn't feel like I was on the ball for the first 18 months of Jasper's life. So I know exactly how it feels to be at that stage where you just think, I'm just desperate to sleep. I'm just desperate to try something. So yes, for us, we tried so many different options. We tried increasing his milk intake. I tried changing his milk schedule, changing his nap times, waking him up earlier, putting him to bed earlier, putting him to bed later, giving him different comforters like my t-shirt or a certain teddy, trying different music, white noise, no TV, no music or anything, just before bed. We honestly tried so many different things. It just got to a point where nothing else was working. He was eating what he should be eating, if not more, but not too much because I didn't want him to wake up with a stomach ache. When we decided to do controlled crying, we were living in a barn. It was in the middle of nowhere. It was really dark. I felt very scared living there. Not in terms of safety, but my mind would play tricks on me. And again, I think this has a lot to do with postnatal anxiety. And in that barn, our bedroom was upstairs and Jasper's bedroom was downstairs. Just that was the layout. Going down there scared me, so it was never a thing of, yep, I'm gonna do it, even if I have to go downstairs every 5 minutes or every hour to settle him. I was already anxious before I even went to bed, so I don't think I was ready for it, to be honest. He was quite difficult to get off to bed, which is another thing. Quite often we'd have to rock him to sleep with a bottle and then put him in. So that's another thing I would say, try to avoid getting them off to sleep yourself. Try to let them self-settle, because then if they do wake up in the middle of the night, they'll just know how to do it. They'll know how to self-settle, or to pick up their dummy, or to pick up their comforter, or just they'll know to do what they need to do themselves without relying on you, which is normally why they wake up. So yeah, we were trying to work on getting him to self-settle in the first place, as well as trying to get him to self-settle at night, and it felt like such a big task. If he would wake up, I'd end up saying to Pete oh, it's your turn. And he'd be like, oh, have you been? I'd be like, yeah, because he's a deep sleeper, so he wouldn't realise because I was just too scared to go down. And then it would cause tension because he would be so tired to go to work the next day, but I would be tired because I'd be looking after Jasper all day. And I'd go down and, I'd settle him a little bit and I'd sit in the hallway and he'd still be crying after 2 minutes. So I'd go back in and I'd, settle him. I'd normally just rub his back or rub his face, and then I'd come back out and I'd maybe wait 3 minutes. So I didn't, you know, I don't even know what the exact method is that you're supposed to use, but I would tend to wait like a minute and then 2 minutes and then 3 minutes. You know, some days I would just be like, oh, just come up with me. And he'd come in bed with us. He would always sleep well when he was in bed with us. Sometimes he'd wake up and he'd want to crawl around the cot. And I think that's just because his body clock wasn't ready. But most of the time he wouldn't wake as much as if he was in his own bed. So yeah, it didn't really work for us. I didn't really have the consistency. And with controlled crying, when you read all the books, it says, you know, after so many days, you'll start to see the results. And, you know, it takes so many days to get it into a habit. But for us, it just wasn't working. And I think we put it down to Jasper just not being ready. And then, like I said, he would get poorly, or he would have a tooth come through, or we'd go on holiday or move house. So in the end, we just kind of accepted that he just wasn't a good sleeper. It wasn't in his body clock, because sometimes he would wake up and just be wide awake. You know, he wouldn't necessarily be crying because he wanted comfort. He'd be crying because he'd be thinking, well, I'm awake. Why isn't anyone here? Why is everyone else sleeping? And yeah, I just thought all I can do is make sure that he's eating enough, drinking enough, check that he's not poorly, make sure he's getting the right amount of sleep in the day. And if he wakes up, I'm just going to have to deal with it. I'm going to have to be up with him or let him be in my bed. Because, you know, chances are you're not going to have a 5-6-year-old, I don't know, you could, but you're not going to have a 20-year-old child that's still waking up in the middle of the night wanting attention. So I just thought it's going to happen at some point. And I kind of got to the point where I thought, I've done a year. What's another 6 months? What's another year on top of that? So we did use elements of controlled crying, and I'm certainly for using it. You know, if it works for you, amazing, go for it. If you want to take parts of it and work it with another technique, again, go for it. And if you don't want to do it, then don't, because it's what's right for you, and it's what's right for your family and your situation. If you are going to try controlled crying, I would just say take it with a pinch of salt. Yes, read the books, speak to other mums, take bits of advice, but ultimately just go with what you want to do. But I would definitely say try and get your child to self-settle, work on that, because once they can do that, you know that if they were able to go back to sleep, they would. I mean, right now, I know that Jasper can self-settle. He can get himself off at night time when we put him in bed. In the middle of the night, there have been times when I've heard him wake up and he's put himself back off to sleep. So I know that he's able to do it. So I know now if he does wake up crying, it's because he's either scared, hungry, poorly, needs his nappy changed. So I can go in, do those checks. And if he hasn't eaten much that day, I will give him a bottle. If it smells a bit, I'll change his nappy. So I definitely think that once you know they're able to self-settle, you can kind of judge it a bit more as to whether or not you need to do controlled crying, whether they are just waking up because they want attention. You know, you can kind of gauge it in that way. Definitely try and be consistent as well. I know it's so difficult. Like I said, if your child is poorly, or you move house, or you go on holiday, things can change. Daylight savings screwed us a lot. Jasper now goes to bed an hour later and wakes up an hour earlier because it's so light out as well. And ultimately just go with your instincts, go with what works for you. If you know you have to get up early in the morning and you can't be up throughout the night, you know, settling your child, and you can deal with them crying and you're fine with that, then go with it, because you need your sleep. If, like me, you don't really need to wake up in the morning, you know you can have a lazy day, then yeah, go in there and self-settle them. So that's it. That's my take on controlled crying and our experience of using it very loosely. Now, I wouldn't say that we did controlled crying, but we definitely took elements of it. I'd love to hear your experiences with controlled crying, so please do comment below. You know, even if you completely disagree with me, let me know. And you know, if you've got any advice for other mums that might be watching this video, again, pop them below. You can also check out lots of videos from the other channel, Mum Mummies. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to give this a thumbs up if you liked it. And if you haven't subscribed already, then please do so, because it's absolutely free and it means the world. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.